conversations tonight. The first guest is the incredible BenCook here. He is a singer, writer. Um, I want to say parallel Twilight. God, I hope I got that right.
I'm actually not a singer.
Yeah,
I'm a drummer. I
drummer.
can sing, but I'm not in my band. I'm a drummer. So,
So, so,
but the other
so
singer is named Ben, so it gets complicated.
it gets very complicated. So no, the reason
Yeah.
I bring this up is because they give me money to sing too, but they give me $5 and I promise never to do it again. Right? So here's $5. Good effort. Please no. Just don't. But as we were talking off the air here, and I'm going to take a sip of Tim Hortons coffee because it's Tim Hortons.
By all means.
Product
placement.
That's right. I actually should. Yeah, I totally should. But you come to a realization at some point. Like, I think the biggest illusion we have in this life is safety. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. There's a tendency to want to feel safe and feel secure, but it's an illusion. It's not real. It's as real as a dream. Maybe even a dream is actually realer because it's one of those situations. As I get, it's one of those situations. It's one of those situations in life that you realize there, like, that idea doesn't really. It's kind of like the American dream. It's a good concept, but it doesn't really translate right in the real world anymore. It's just
agreed.
Right. It doesn't exist. It really just doesn't. So if life's going to hurt, if life's going to be fragile, and you know that there's going to be pain along the way, and that you probably, when you walk out here, isn't going to be, it's going to be painful on the way out as well. Just that's just life. Very Buddhist pain is life thing. There's a very
very rare that someone leaves like at the end of a party. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, so what I'm saying to people here is, so I decided, I just said fuck it. You know, I mean, if I'm bad, the hardest thing I think when you go into this is there's this fear of, am I gonna suck? Right? Because that's a really, like, it's from an ego standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It hits so hard. It hits so brutally hard. You don't have the luxury. You don't have the luxury of what's the term? It's out there. It's not yours anymore. It's now about everybody else's interpretation. You can't protect yourself. You can't protect the piece you've made. It doesn't matter if it's a story, a piece of music. Like, that's art. Once it's out in the open, it's not really yours anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
You've done everything you could up until that moment. Hopefully, it's the best work you can because that's important. But when you get down to it,
there should be some steady improvement. But at the end of the day, like, once it's in the world. So, like, the first band I ever played gigs with, I was the second drummer for the band, and the first one, it didn't end on good terms. I didn't really know the guy that well, but they basically said, like, whatever you're going to do on the drums, it can't be anything remotely like what he had done. Otherwise, he'll take us to court. And you know, I didn't really have any experience, but my instinct was like, that seems a little overkill for a band that no one's ever heard of before. You know, it seems a little intense.
It's a little odd. Like honestly, that's a red flag. Like honest to God, that's a giant red flag.
I agree. But when I met the guy, I actually met him at one of the band members' birthday parties. It was like 2 years into the band, so like kind of bygones. And you know, I'd done my own thing for a couple years with the band, so we had a different name, we had different songs. But this guy ended up being at a birthday party, and we got introduced, and you know, we were chatting outside. It was just me, him, and like two other people, and he was talking about. He was like, I really appreciate how, you know, you changed things from what I had been doing before, because, you know, it would have really bothered me if you had just copied. And then he was like, I'm sure you can understand that, you know, like it's your baby. Like when you write something, it's yours. And I was like, I really can't. I'm not trying to like be contradictory or nothing, but if I quit this band right now and another drummer came in and they did exactly what I did, I would consider it a compliment, because it would mean there was nothing to improve. Right. And secondly, if someone wants to take what I've done and they want to copy it like note for note, um, I consider that to be like I'm kind of in a better position because I know I can make something different next time. Whereas if all you've got is the ability to reproduce what other people have done, you're you're going to have to break that if you're going to get any further, right? You're going to have to be able to like
Oh yeah,
find
like
your own weaknesses and start like kind of weeding them out.
well, you got to figure out the stories you want to tell. And I think that's true in
Yeah,
music as much as it is in anything else. And to do that, I mean, obviously, you start emulating the grades. Like you notice, like if you've seen any of my drawings, I've been doing video game stuff. I've been doing
hmm
Ninja Turtles. I've been doing fun things.
yeah.
The
Well, that's where
reason,
it starts, right?
well, yeah, it's always where it's going to start. You're going to start with the
Yeah,
things you like or the things you want to challenge yourself with.
of course.
And as time goes on, and this is gradually happening, I'm doing a little bit more of my own stuff
hmm
because honestly, it's the only way I'm going to get better. It's the only way I'm going to
Right.
learn. I can copy stories. I mean, I did that when I was a kid too, like magazine articles and stuff like that. I used to do that word for word stuff because it was interesting, um,
Right.
right? But there comes a point you got to tell your own stories. You got to have the imagination to tell your own stories.
Well, I
And
think there's a place. I think there's a place for people to kind of rehash the same formula over and over again. You know, there's bands
oh,
and
totally.
and writers out there that just kind of stick like Tom Clancy, perfect example. You know, he kind of tells the same story over and over, same beats, same
Oh
basic
yeah, oh yeah, no,
characterization,
no,
but
like
he does it well. You know.
that's honestly not terrible business. Like, look,
Yeah.
strictly from a business level, we're not talking about quality level, but business
Yeah.
level. Everybody wants to be Burger King or McDonald's. Like honestly, like let's be perfectly blunt here, right? Strictly business. That's what you want your stuff to be. You want your stuff to get to a point that it's so ingrained in people what you do. Oh, it's it's Parallel Twilight. I know exactly what that sounds like. I know what that feels. I know what that experience is going to be like,
Right.
and I'm going to buy it. And because you've been around for so long and you have so much of your stuff out there, it's dirt fucking cheap. That's how it
Yeah.
works, right? That's how it works. The business model of coming up with your own formulas and even one formula that works and just constantly using it to make money, that has been the arts business of art for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
That's why like when we talk authors, a lot of authors get stuck in a genre. It's not because they
hmm
don't want to necessarily write more things, but if you're getting five or six, high five or low six figures to tell a story in this particular genre and you get to make stuff up, yeah, you might be a little bored of it, but on the other hand, you really like that 5 or 6 figure check. And I
Yeah.
mean, and that's and there's to a degree, and this is when you're making art as a living. There's a compromise of genius a little bit. Like you're going to sacrifice a little bit of that exploration just for the pragmatic. I need to make some fucking money. That's the way it
Yeah.
is,
There's
right?
also an ego attachment to it. Like you were talking about before, there is a part of it like if you nail it, right, and it becomes like, renowned or successful in whatever avenue you're in, uh, there's a tendency for the person to like that is who they are now, right?
Right?
And so like anything else would be almost a disservice. Some people are really good at reinventing themselves or like not sticking into a lane or anything like that, but it's rare.
Well, see, I'm 50-50 on that one. I don't think
Mm,
it's as rare as people think. I think what it is do people let themselves? I look at okay, music wise,
yeah.
David Bowie's the man when it comes to that stuff.
Yes.
But here's the deal. In one very real sense, it's David Bowie from the very beginning, right? All the way to the end. Like
hmm
there's an authenticity to David Bowie's music, and you know it when you listen to it.
Right.
Right. That's why he what he was able to do, and I think great artists do this. What's my story in this genre? What's my story? What story can I tell here
Yeah.
that's in my wheelhouse? And
Yeah.
even Bowie, I mean, as much as say he's reinvented, so he did and he didn't. Like he stayed within certain bits of his wheelhouse throughout the entire time, but he did make some significant changes and he took some significant risk.
hmm
Heck, even I'm a Linkin Park guy. So
Yeah.
I
Oh
so
man, they're super talented. No matter what you think of
oh yeah,
music.
no, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate about Chester, but I mean they were a super
Yeah.
talented band.
Hmm.
But here's the thing, you know what my favorite album of theirs is actually, and it's probably their one of their least commercially successful ones. But I think they
Which
needed it. Thousand Suns. The
it's not an
concept,
album I know.
yeah. So it's they decided to do a concept on nuclear fallout.
Oh, cool.
That's the album right here.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, I love the art. That's
Yeah, the
sick.
art's amazing. They never did an album like this again,
Yeah.
but they didn't need to because what happens is they took their chance here. Did well, didn't do well, whatever. Now they could go back to the material that they were most well known for,
Right.
right? And Castle of Glass is one of my favorite songs, but I don't know if they get to that without doing that album, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Right.
Pink Floyd has a similar story, right?
Yeah.
Like Dark Side of the Moon was sort of it's what's considered to be the Pink Floyd sound, right? Like it's kind of the sound for that vibe. But my favorite album by Pink Floyd is Animals, which is a concept album based on Animal Farm by George Orwell. And each song deals with one of the animals from the story and like kind of tells it from their perspective, tells the story of Animal Farm from their perspective. It's beautifully written, probably the best lyrics they ever wrote. The guitar solos, keyboard solos are ridiculous. The whole album is just rock solid, but it's not commercially successful. However, after Animals, they did The Wall.
Yeah.
So, The Wall probably wouldn't have happened without Animals, right? Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
kind of like necessary for each other.
As much as I hate to say it, because I hate Saint Anger as a like it's a very listenable album.
That infamous snare drum, man.
Well, actually, do you know what did it for me? You know what did it for me? When they actually redid their own lyrics in some of their songs.
Yeah.
Like Damage Incorporated. I love Damage Incorporated as a song. When I heard Fuck 'em All and No Regrets in Saint Anger, I was like, oh no. Right? That was literally like I like honestly for me, Frantic was a fun song. And it's one of the only ones I'll still do live. Right? Saint Anger, it's okay. But the fact that they're ripping off their own, that killed it. Like I just couldn't at that point. Like the rest of it, it's the only album of Metallica's that I could not listen to start to finish. Right? And I've listened to Load and Reload, and and honestly, they're not. Those albums aren't that great, but they are, right? Like comparatively to their other stuff, I don't really think Load and Reload are that good.
Yeah.
Now, there are Load and Reload fans, I am sure. I have not met them, but I'm sure they're out there, right? But I'm not.
Yeah, of course. Like, dude, there are Fred Penner fans out there right now. Like, grown 70-year-old Fred Penner fans. What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They're singing Baby Beluga every day. Power to them. Let them do their thing.
Yeah, exactly. But, that's it, right? I'm not gonna knock it. It's just the way it is, right? Yeah. So what I'm getting across though is this, right? They needed that. They had to go out on their own limb. They had to pretty much like just go all in, because otherwise they needed that rebirth. They needed that change and that redirection. And although I don't think they've ever quite hit their apex of their earlier albums in terms of the rawness of that voice, I don't think they have that anymore. Right? And you can kind of tell they're having fun again. And they went back very much to, if not the voice of it, the spirit of it is still there in their more recent stuff. Right? And that's how right, again, we all got to take chances on our art at some different points to find that voice, to redefine that voice. Because when we
I think this comes back to what. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. When we go back to, we learn different languages. When we expand our vocabulary, like when I'm drawing, it's actually expanding my writing vocabulary too, because now I am looking at what I'm doing very differently than what I did before. And
totally.
Right, it's because now I have a different tool. I understand there's now different ways to tell the story that up until that point I never could fully grasp or imagine.
Right.
And telling that story, right, now I have new tools. Now the trap you can fall into is, these new tools are shiny and wonderful, and not all of them need to be used. And that comes with experience too. When does
Yep.
this tool work? When does not this tool work? But I've gotten to the
That
point
requires
that,
experimentation, though, right? That requires you to
absolutely.
come out of your comfort zone again, like you were mentioning. And I think that has to do with safety. I would say that, like, taking the Metallica example of what you were mentioning, I think, like, I was never a huge Metallica guy. I think it was just that I listened to a lot of metal music, and it felt like when I listened to Metallica, it felt like I was listening to the bands that they had influenced, and so it
Oh
didn't
yeah,
have the same impact on me, right? Um, it's similar to like when I first listened to Sabbath. I was like, yeah, I've heard this before. I hadn't heard Sabbath, but I'd heard all the bands of Sabbath
yeah.
influence.
It's also like Slayer. Like Slayer's the same thing.
Right.
Everything that
Slayer,
comes from,
Megadeth, all that stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Anything that comes from that era, right,
Right.
right. It's
But
impacted music today, right?
yeah, but if you go back to the classic Metallica, like that rawness you were mentioning is there, and I think it's because they had something to lose, and they decided, fuck it, let's go for it, right? Oh, can I swear on here?
Oh, go ahead. I was swearing.
Perfect.
Don't
Uh,
worry about me.
yeah, so I just want to make sure. Yeah, they were just like, screw it, let's just go for the finish line. Who cares? Like, whatever we lose on the way is worth it for the sake of success, right?
Yeah.
But when you listen to the albums that weren't as good, like post Black album, in my opinion, it feels like they reached this height where they were playing stadiums to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, and there's this illusion that that can be lost if they do it wrong, and I think they lost perspective to a certain degree that, like, you got there by taking risks. You have to continue to take risks to honor that sacrifice, right?
So another band from that era, we were talking about experiment changing, like taking chances on their sound.
Mm-hmm.
I liked U2. U2 is a like
The
I
early
think
shit was really good, yeah.
yeah. Joshua Tree and Actung Baby are amazing. Like actually,
Yep.
those are the two albums. I like guys. You might hate YouTube. You won't hate those two albums. Those two
There's
albums
de-
are damn near perfect, right?
I would say, if you don't like U2, you'll still find songs on those two albums that you enjoy,
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like those are that is U2 at its purest, probably on their absolute best game. Then they
Yeah.
went kind of like a disco dance style for like two albums, which shrug. But then
Hey
they
man,
went back, right, and then
like if you're Irish, that is a like quite a leap, right?
yeah, yeah, and
They're
then
an
they went
Irish
back,
rock band, so
and
that
then
was
they went
pretty
back to,
adventurous.
and then they went back to all that you can't leave behind, which
Yeah.
is very much in that band, especially Joshua Tree. It feels very much like a more polished version of the Joshua Tree. It's a
Yeah.
great album. That album's really good too. Right now,
Yeah.
I do think like there's a tendency when you put yourself out there so much and you've done so many different things, it's hard to constantly, I think, and that's what happened I think with U2 a little bit, is they've done so many different things. Like where do you, same with the Stones, they've done so many things, where
Yeah.
the hell do you go from here? There's only
Yeah.
so far you can actually go.
Open a
The
burger joint, right? Like you don't
Yeah,
have to keep making albums.
yeah, yeah,
That's my
exactly.
thing. Is like, just there comes a point where it's like, try something that's not music. You know, I feel that way about, like, there you know some of my favorite writers have branched out into other genres. You know,
Mhm.
like Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is famous for American Gods and Anansi Boys and that kind of stuff. But the Sandman run and some of the stuff he did for 2000 AD back in the day when he was just getting his start in comics, really, I think, like, it's such a departure from, like, the real cerebral stuff that he does with his books. Like when you read Sandman, it's deep, right? It's got a lot of heavy thinking involved, but the pictures do a lot of the work, and he's mostly focused on dialogue. And it's a different thing to write a comic script than it is to write a novel, and you can tell that,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
it tightened up his writing by writing a comic. It made him a better writer stepping out of that, you know?
Where comics, so comics, what comics do for writers is they force writers to really look at their dialogue, honestly,
Yeah.
because
You can only fit so much in a frame.
well, that's it. That's actually, and Twitter's good training, by the way, as well. If you guys really want to
Hell
do
yeah.
dialogue, Twitter is actually a blessing in disguise because it forces you to become very concise.
Yeah.
And right, but that's the thing. Like comic dialogue was the, and here's the thing. Like, and here's a funny thing. I'm not saying he's not good. Unfortunately for Neil, I read Charles DeLint and Ray Bradbury first.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I read them first. I could have just got away with Ray Bradbury. I think I would have enjoyed him more.
Yeah,
but I also read DeLint, and once I read DeLint, it was like because they're both touching on the same concepts and mythologies, and Neil writes about stories, and right, like that's what he writes about.
Yeah, he's a sort of a meta writer.
Yeah, kind of. He deals with he retells mythology with a certain modern sensibilities. What he actually does, and whether it's Sandman, American Gods, and the Z Boys, Neverwhere, because I've read quite a bit of his stuff. Good Omens, even, believe it or not, right?
Yeah,
that's what he does. And that's who he is when he writes books, and he's great at it. And I'm not saying he's not. Sure. It doesn't hit me the same way though, because I've read so many other people that feel just enough like him, right? That I'm like
me with Metallica, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You know they're good. Like you don't.
I listen to them. I'm like, these guys are awesome. If I'd heard these guys first, I'd love them. But
I know.
I've already done this.
It's kind of like me with Tolkien, and I read Robert Jordan before I read Tolkien. Doesn't mean I don't respect Tolkien, but I read Robert Jordan first, so that's all the way more sophisticated hero's journey than Lord of the Rings is, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like once you get a certain level, going back. Although I do have a real soft spot for The Hobbit. The Hobbit is actually an incredibly fun read.
Possibly one of the best stories ever told.
Yeah.
I think it's in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's his best. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, it's his best. But the thing about that, right, is that's just it. Like we see certain people at certain points, but no, like honestly, I'd love to actually meet Neil and interview him someday. But
wouldn't we all?
Why not? It's not impossible. Like the one thing I've learned doing the show, I've interviewed Kelly Armstrong. I've interviewed Jonas Saul. I've interviewed some pretty big names on here.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like it's not, hey, you want to come talk? Yeah, I'd like to come talk, right? And honestly, it's that simple a lot of times. Like you don't have to. People forget, like for the most part, like you got a lot of people that are kind of like in their own bubbles, and they have to be to some degree, right? They have to be somewhat, because when you look at that level of success, everybody wants something from these people. That's just how it is, right? True. Like it or lump it, that's the truth. So so they buffet themselves. But that all said, I got to talk about Borderlands 3 with Kelly Armstrong. She's a gamer mom.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. That is cool, right? Human being at the end of the day, right? Like we all have those human qualities that kind of make us us, and it's universal, no matter who you are on the spectrum. So, I mean, you want to hear the craziest person I try to get on the show? I'm still trying.
Sure, yeah.
Alice Cooper.
That would be a hell of an interview.
Yeah, it would be.
He's so well spoken, and he's like genuinely brilliant. Like as a person.
He's also one of the most authentic. Like I've seen him at comic book conventions. He's one of the most authentic celebrities I've ever seen. Like he's so genuinely himself that I think he'd just be a chill, laid back guy to have a fun conversation with you for just 1 hour. Like, and I figure, like, especially in a time like this, what the fuck? What he's gonna tell me? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
not like I had it to start with, right?
Yeah, you heard no in your head, so what difference does it make if you hear it in real life, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you're in the rejection business. Really, a lot of
yes, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, you're in
the rejection business.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's the truth.
Like you make 1,000 no's, and then every once in a while you get a resounding yes. You're like, okay, just I'll stick with that. Let's figure out what I did right there. You know what I mean?
Well, even, I mean, that's it. Like, we're in the rejection business. Like, you know, going in, it's like, hey, my great idea, I can sell an idea very well, but the truth of the matter is, the person on the other end's got to believe in it, right? And I don't know that you can actually make that argument. I don't know if you can make that argument that even the most guys that get the most yeses, they get no's too. It never stops. You're gonna hear and it's like, honestly, I had this like epiphany being a freelancer for a year. I have to go back to a day job because I ran out of time. Because by the time I learned all this shit, it's like, okay, I gotta go back to work, right?
That's the way it goes, man.
Yeah, it is the way it goes. But
yeah,
but I also know this too. By this time next year, I'm gonna be freelancing again full time.
that's exactly it, right?
Yeah,
you got to
like
do it in stages.
Yeah. Well, it's not because I know what I need to do now. So this is what this is what I've learned. This is art as a business. This is the thing. Most of us don't do this. We write our stories, we make our music, we make our art, whatever it is we do. But what most of us don't actually do that we need to do, I did interview an actor last night, and I kind of put him in this spot when I put you. How do you see yourself in this business? Who are you? What do you want? How much do you need to be this certain person? You're a drummer in a band. Do you want to be more? Do you want to be less? I mean, these are all rhetorical primarily. If you want to answer, you can. I'm not saying.
No, I have answers.
Yeah.
yeah. Like I think about this stuff all the time, right? Like my origins. Like I honestly, I had a kind of dark period in my late 20s, and when I came out the other side of it, I knew who I was, and I was like, I'm just going to be this person and do all the things that make my heart sing. And if that doesn't fix things, at least I'll be happy. You know what I mean?
No, I understand that all too well. My own little dark time kind of forced me to have a little like literally come to Jesus with my own mortality. That's when I first learned how fragile life really was. But here's the thing, like, this was the hardest part for me as being a freelancer this year, right? I had to figure out what that meant in a business sense. Like, what does that mean in a business sense? Right? What do I offer? And then I realized, it took me about 6 months to realize, because I've been interviewing people the whole time. Oh my God, I do interviews. That's who I am. This is it, right? It took 6 months for that to like kind of sink in. It took another 2 months to figure out what I was going to do with it. And then now it's almost like I'm rebuilding from a brand new ground zero, which I think is really, really interesting. At the same time, at the same token, it's like what I realized that most of us don't do is, I had this talk about want and need. That a want's a whim. A want is a wish. And by the way, wishes can be very powerful. Whims can be very powerful.
Very. Yeah.
However, chances are a want isn't going to stick with you. What do you need to do? Because when you're in that like need function, it's a much more immediate. It's not quite a desperation, but it's more like, this is what I want to do. I made a decision that I was going to go back and get myself something a little bit more stabler income. I wanted to get away from what I was doing. I have to, because just my circumstances.
Sure.
I've had 6 job interviews in 5 days. I'm going to get something. Something will give very, very shortly. And when it does, I shift. And then from there, I keep shifting into where I see myself, because it's not only about getting a job, because I can get any job. It's about, what's my purpose? What do I need to do with it? Where do I go with it? Right? Yeah. And then and when you can figure out how to kind of do that, where you can have that need in your head, like, I need to do this. I need to write. I need to make music. I need this.
Yeah.
That's when you're very much in tune. And I think,
go I think there's a massive difference between having a purpose and being busy, right?
Yes.
So like I can play video games all day. I am busy. I'm busy completing side quests and learning stories that someone else wrote. And I can use that as inspiration for other ideas if I decide to use it that way. But for the most part, I'm just occupying time. I'm not really doing anything meaningful, right? But my purpose is something that like when I'm doing it, the whole world falls away, and that's my focus, right? That's the only thing that exists in my reality at the moment I'm doing it. So when I'm writing, when I'm playing drums, when I'm getting ready for a show, anything to do with my creative outlets, I feel that there's like this part of my mind that's connected to everything else in my body that goes, yep, this is the thing. And you just keep doing it. And it doesn't feel busy at all. It feels like I come out of it with a smile on my face. I can play video games for 10 hours. And if I come out of it, I might be miserable,
You
right?
might be
I've never
exhausted.
come out of a writing session feeling miserable.
No, it's almost like because you did what you were supposed to do, and that's the other thing.
Right.
Like you did
Yeah.
exactly what you were supposed to do, and and so one of my favorite chats, my favorite TED talk of all time is why you will fail to have a great career. It's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
he's a teacher basically. He's at he's Kitchener Waterloo. He's at university, and I don't remember the university he's at there. But he did this talk about why you will fail to have a great career. And essentially, what it comes down to for almost every single one of us is this: we talk ourselves out of it.
That's well true.
That's the honest truth. It's not that we can't do these things that all these incredible people do. There's a biblical concept that many are called and few are chosen. I actually
Right.
kind of revise it to many are called but few choose, because the thing
Yeah.
is, we all like talent is probably the most overrated thing, right? In the
Yes.
world, it's the most over because you can see it,
Yes.
and it kills you sometimes when you see it because you look at it and you're looking at the person doing it and you realize that person is incredible. If only they saw it. And
Mm.
that is the most, as a person that wants people to succeed, that is the most frustrating thing in the world to watch.
Yeah.
But the most
Totally.
refreshing thing to watch is when you see someone who may not be as talented as you, right?
And they're crushing it.
And they're crushing it because they put their whole heart and they believe it. That's
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And it's so, again, this is all I learned this all this year. I've been published in I've been published. I've taken my stuff and I've been published in places. I've gotten work. I'm still getting more work. But I think what I went through for this first year was really, really good. I learned so much and only touching the surface of what I learned. But
Hmm.
the biggest thing I realized is it's really about looking at what you can do and looking at who you are and putting it together in a package that people can invest in. And it sounds
Bingo.
so fucking simple. It is fucking simple, but it is not easy. You gotta be very honest with yourself.
There's nothing in the world about being a human being that's simple. Even if you can write it down in a list, it's still not simple to execute.
Yeah.
Um, but knowing makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real thing that I've discovered is like, like I think most people, growing up in the early 2000s in Canada, particularly Ontario, you can waffle very successfully. I
Oh,
used to call my 20s, I used to call it excelling at mediocrity. I was
oh
like really
yes.
good at just passing muster, you know? And it's like I'd get promoted and I'd be a supervisor, and then someone would be like, you could do this job better. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing this
Well,
though, you know?
but I was at Pure Later for 10 years.
Mm,
I'm not gonna say anything bad about the company, but for 9 out of the 10 years I was there, or not quite 10 years, 9 of the 9.5 years I was there, I was very fortunate with the people that were in my life in every department I worked in. And honestly, if any of you are listening to this or watching this, God bless you. You guys were great. You know who you are. But the truth, but that last half year, I knew I was done. Like I just knew in my head I was done. and you just, and when you know that, like you have a decision you can make. Like I could have had a very financially lucrative time in this time because I was set. I was way in the union. I had tenure. I could have just ridden that out, and I would have been fine. Like I was past the point of I certainly wasn't going to be the first person laid off, and it turned out like that's the least of their problems right now. Right.
You had that illusory safety you were talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. I if I wanted to have that, all right, I could have, and it's easy. Like I think there's a difference between simplicity and ease. The easiest thing in the world is to do nothing. True. Right? Yeah. Simplicity is figuring is breaking down complex things into things you can understand. That's how I kind of define simplicity.
Sure.
But
I would say that's elegance, but that's semantics.
That's fair. That's fair.
Right? You know, like a good mathematical equation is elegant, even if it's complicated, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Because language is beautiful. But we are digressing here. Right. But it gets to a point once you've done a job for a long enough time. If you've been in a job for a long enough time, you realize, like, you get to the habit of what's easy for you. You find one of those things that you're comfortable doing. You just get good at them. And once you get to a certain point, you get to the point where you're unconsciously competent. That means, like, if you may not have never learn absolutely everything. But there's a point like you just don't really have to think about it anymore. You can just do it and not worry about anything or once you get to that point, you have two choices: move up, or leave,
or move out,
or out. That's it. You have two choices, and
I had the same thing when I was I was in culinary for 11 years, maybe 12-ish. Maybe a little longer than that. I was at a butcher shop. I worked at restaurants. I did, everything from big box to fine dining, small independent shops. Any place that would hire me, you know what I mean? And I just kind of learned from the ground up. I didn't go to culinary school or anything. It was just kind of like something I fell into after I dropped out of university. And I just kept at it. I got lucky with some of the jobs I got. And I'm not an idiot, which is a serious advantage. When you're working in the kitchen, the culinary industry. It's not to say that there's a lot of there are a lot of idiots. I'm just going to put it out there. The smart ones really do well, but there's a lot of people who they need to be shown how to hold a knife properly 6 times before they finally figure it out, and that's cool. We need those people too. But the thing is, it was not challenging, right? And I found that, like, I realized there was a direct connection between my depression and the monotony of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this job. This is probably like my 8th or 9th year working in kitchens. I had this awful job, just awful. And it was a 2-hour bus ride one way. So I was spending 4 hours a day on the bus.
Yes.
And basically the goal was, I was living in Aurora, which I don't know if anybody listening knows Aurora. Yeah.
Right.
If you find yourself in Aurora, keep driving. That's all I'm gonna say. It's okay, but it's not a place you want to stay. You know, that's all.
I do. I know. No. You should hear.
And for the record, most towns in Ontario are like that.
No. You should hear Chuck's and I's very first conversation.
Yeah.
We bonded over 2 things. One of them was metal.
Yep.
And the look on Chuck's face, I will still say this to the day I die. The look on his face when I mentioned the Monomarth, and he's like, "Oh shit, he's serious!" Like, you actually see that look on his face.
Yeah.
Right. Oh shit, he actually knows what the fuck he's saying, right? So.
Yep.
But the other thing was London, Ontario. I pick on that city an awful lot because it's a big.
I lived there for 2 years.
Hug. It's just mutual hug.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Actually, all my band members, except for the bass player, who's actually Chuck's little brother, but 3 out of the 4 of us either lived or grew up there.
Yeah, I grew up there.
And
so
we all live in Toronto now, and there's a reason.
Yes, yes, there is.
Yeah.
But we talked about, and I said, I'm going to say this here again. It's not that London's a bad place to live. That's not what we're the right.
I agree.
It's the fact that it's a big enough city, and especially if you've lived in other big cities, you know the things that are missing here, and it
Yeah.
kills you because it just it's not even, they're not even big things. They're just obvious things that you would think a city that size would have, right? That's what kills you about London, Ontario.
Yep. Yeah, it's like getting an ice cream cone, and when you take a bite out of it, it tastes like steak. You're like, what is
Yeah,
this? What did
yeah.
they do to this? You know, like
And
it looks okay on the outside, and then you kind of like you get really into it, and you're like, there's something wrong here. This isn't right.
yeah, and like I said, and I noticed I grew up there. I know I have some friends that I'm sorry that, and man, this is just an honest opinion. I mean, I would like Kitchener, Waterloo make more sense, and that, I'm not
Yeah.
saying they're perfect either, but I mean they make more sense. Hamilton makes
Sure.
more sense, right?
Well, I don't want to spend the whole time shitting on Ontario's
No. Go back,
infrastructure.
back to the thing, but yeah,
Look, Aurora is not the greatest, but the point was that I was living in Aurora, so there was really nothing for me to do when I was home, and the whole goal of the time that I was there was the next place I'm moving. I kept telling myself the next place you're moving is Toronto. Period. Full stop. There's no other stops on the way. So I've been working on that for 4 or 5 years at that point. So at that point, I got a job that was within transit distance of Toronto. So like I could get there from the city once I moved there, but it meant that I had to spend 4 hours a day on the bus for the time that I was not living in Toronto. So it sucked. So what I did for that time was when I was on the bus, I would either sleep or I would practice my drums. And I hadn't played drums in years. All I had was a little djembe that I used to jam with my friends with, like a little hand drum.
okay.
But I hadn't been on a drum kit since I was 18. And at this point, I'm like 27, right? So I'm just like trying to keep the dream alive in my head, but I'm not believing anything's going to happen. So anyway, this one day I'm working in the kitchen, and anybody that's a young, interested musician that wants to find like-minded people to jam with, get a job in a kitchen. I'm not joking. Like it's full of musicians. And artists and actors, like all kinds of creative people, find it because it has flexible hours. It's not that bad when you're young.
That's why I worked at Pure Later. That's exactly for the same reason.
Right.
I mean, you get that half of people that are there forever and ever, and then you get the other
Sure,
half.
the lifers, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, so I was working Expo this one day, and someone wanted to take over the music, but like they were a buddy of mine, so we've been talking about Tool all day, so they decided to put on Lateralis.
Okay.
And so Schism comes on, and I start tapping away on the table to the beat of Schism, right? And this guy, one of the servers, comes over. His name's Zach. He's like, "Hey man, you got a pretty good beat. You ever play the drums?" I was like, "Yeah, I used to play back in the day, but not very much." And he's like, "You want to come over and we'll jam sometime? Like I got a drum kit in my house. My brother used to play, and I play guitar. Do you want to?" And I was like, "I would love that." And he's like, "Okay, I live in Aurora, so it might be a little awkward." I was like, "No, this is perfect. Yes, let's do this." Like he lived like 10-minute drive from my house. So this is fantastic. So I would just drive home with him. We go to his house, and the first night that I went there, I hadn't played drums in almost 10 years. I sat down behind the drum kit, and it felt like I plugged into an outlet. Like as soon as I sat down, I was like, "I'm home. This is it. This is the place I'm supposed to be." And I grabbed the sticks, and I was honestly playing a song in like 45 seconds. Like I just knew what to do because I'd been practicing on the bus and all that kind of stuff. And about 6 months later, one of my other coworkers had their drummer leave their band, and he was like, "Do you want to audition?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." And I was in a gigging band all of a sudden. And after that, that's when I started really doing my soul searching, because that's when I started looking around at the stuff I was doing in my spare time and thinking, like, why am I doing anything but drumming right now? You know? But after a little while, I was like, the music is good, but I found that as a drummer, what I was trying to do was enhance someone else's music, which is a worthy goal. But my ego couldn't get too attached because it was never my project. It was always someone else's project that I was working on, right?
You were like an actor on the stage, not doing any directing or producing yourself.
Yeah, like it's a collaborative process. Like the band I'm in now, Pioneer Anomaly, it's very collaborative. We all write the music together, and like I feel like I have equal input, but I'm never going to write the lyrics, and I'm never going to produce the message of the song. What I'm supposed to do, in my mind, what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to play in a way that brings everybody else like cohesively together. That's what the drums are supposed to do, right? They're they're like if the singer's the driver, the drummer is like the engine. It gets you where you need to go, but I'm not in charge of the wheels, you know. Um, but the writing ended up being my ego. That was where I could focus my creative energy outside of that stuff, and finding that balance is really important. And I think uh, specialization is something that we use for comfort. And I found that the more I branched out, I'm not saying this works for everybody, but the more I branched out, like the way you're doing, like you do writing, you do the art, you do this podcast, right? By having like multiple dimensions to your creative process, it kind of helps you, enhances you in all the other things you're doing, right?
Well, I think okay. So this is what this is. Okay, so this is an interesting one, as I think it really comes down to your goals too. Uh,
Sure. Yeah.
from a profitability standpoint, purely a profit standpoint, specialization, honestly, more often than not, is the way to go. It's not the only way to go, but you will find in terms of getting work, that is
Yes.
that is the way to go.
Yes.
But if your goal is self sufficiency, right, then that's when you learn as much as you can about all these different things. It's always good as no matter where you are, whether you're choosing to be a specialist or whether you're choosing to be a self-sufficient person, right? Those are two examples. There are other paths you can take in art. I'm somewhere in the
Sure.
middle between self-sufficient and specialization, somewhere in the middle there. But
Hmm.
the thing about it is, I think it's wise if you're going to be a specialist to at least explore like the areas you want to specialize in, explore a little bit about how each of them works because it will make you a better communicator, right?
Yes.
Even if you are, let's say you're a specialist drummer, but you understand a little bit how the bass guitar functions in linking everything together, the lead guitar, the singer, you understand a little bit of those dynamics. It
Hmm.
actually makes you be able to do your music better. You'll understand your role a lot more. You'll have a much more clear purpose with that, what the
Yes.
musicians are going for, your fellow bandmates are going for in the albums and stuff like that. But at the same time, but you're still using it. Now, if you're like me, a very self sufficient guy, it's like, hey man, I want to be a one man band, man. And it's like that also is very beneficial because again, you understand that now. I think there's a project balance. I think there are some
Sure.
projects where I like even with okay, I am drawing now. Doesn't mean that like
Hmm.
I feel I'm competent enough in anything that I am doing some of my own illustration, but for some things I know I'm not. I don't even have the right. I don't have the right tools for that, and I
Sure.
know other people that do have the right tools, and I can actually now I understand it enough a lot better now, so I can give art direction in enough of a way that I can let my fellow artists around me be creative and at the
Yeah.
same time at the same time like give them a clear idea where I want to go with it
Yeah.
and that's a I think some branching out I think everybody has to do it. I agree with you, but I think the purposes for each person is a little different. I think with you it feels like you want to be like Phil Collins, man. You want to do it all.
I'm not. I actually, when it comes to music, drums is what I want to do. I like to sing, but like I don't really. I don't want to be in front of people. I don't like to be the center of attention.
Interesting.
Um, when it comes to writing, uh, I think I'm the kind of person I like collaboration. I've always been really good at working with other people. Um, and that's what like comics seem to be the thing that I enjoy more than anything because I get to work with an artist. So we're sort of co-creating things together. Like when I was making like I have nothing published yet, but the first comic that I've ever made, it's done, and I'm about to start a Kickstarter for it in April.
That sounds
It's
cool.
called Apex, And the artist I got was a guy from Rio in Brazil, and immensely talented guy, like just amazing. I can't believe that I got a hold of this dude. Like it was just pure luck, basically, that his calendar was free at the time that I needed him. And I found like the thing that made it work well was that I had a vision for the world, but I wanted to see what he thought it looked like. You know what I mean? Like I was comfortable with him showing me, uh, like he'd be like, "So what are you thinking about this?" And I'd be like, "Okay." So I'd send him some reference images, like when we're talking. So it's based in a city that's built on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Okay, so it's like in the future, like 100 years in the future. And so the idea is it's like a mixture of industrial and old nature because the patch smashed into Southeast Asia, and so the jungle has started kind of mutating and growing onto the patch. So I was like, I want it to look like it was cobbled together by poor people because that's really who built it. But there should also be trees incorporated in certain spots and that kind of thing as well. And so I sent him some reference images, and he just went for it. And like beyond that, I didn't want to give him a lot of direction. I wanted to see what his mind could invent because I got to trust somebody. Like we were talking about specialization. He's the guy that knows how to do art. I like if I had an artistic bone in my body, I would draw something for him and show him what I meant. But like I can't do that. I can describe things with words. So like I need to lean on him for that, and it means that um, I can focus on dialogue and character development and plot without having to worry about the pictures uh, not doing it justice. If it's right, it's right. If it's not, then I go, what do you like? It's missing something. What do you think we can do to tweak it? You know what I mean?
Totally, totally. So I'm of a few minds on this. So let's see, where do I want to go first? I'm gonna ask this because
Sure.
I interviewed a guy by the name of Christopher Moron. He does a comic called Peerless. It was Kung Fu, but
Okay.
he's also in a band and he's doing his own musical stuff as well.
Cool.
Comics don't really feel that different from being in a band, does it?
No, there's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of parallels. The first band I was in, the bass player turned to me. I think it was week 3 because there was a bit of a like a tense moment between the guitarist and the lead singer, and I was like, "What was that about?" And the bass player looked at me. He goes, "Being in a band's like dating 5 guys at the same time." And like it's stuck with me ever since, and it really is. Like if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, you got to be willing to compromise. You got to be willing to stand your ground sometimes too. But it's not always going to be easy. The key is like to make sure that whatever you're working on together, whatever the project happens to be, is the focus and not your personal feelings about a specific thing. Now, if someone's disrespectful, that has to be addressed, obviously. But like,
More
hopefully
often
that
than
doesn't
not,
happen.
like 90% of the people you deal with are very professional, and their
Yeah.
goals, same goals you want. They want to do the best product possible.
Yep.
And those kind of disagreements are the disagreements you're okay with because they might actually have a better idea than you do. I've learned that. I've
Yeah.
learned that's a good thing. Like you
It's a
learn.
worth listening. It's a worth at least listening to, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, and I feel
even
like
if they're off base, you want to know where they're coming from.
good bands do that too. Like really, like smart. These bands that want no stress in their lives, they do that too because
Hmm.
um, because in both businesses, the biggest two frustrations are creative and cash. Now, sometimes you can't control the latter, but you can definitely control the former to some degree. It's like
Yep.
I can control the creative to some degree here, and let's get everybody a little more involved so they're at least happy with the work they're doing, right?
Right.
And
Totally.
I think especially because you're dealing with pencilers and other people that are very talented, you want to make sure that their direction, they want it or need it as much as you do, or as much as possible, because
Right.
it's your baby, but they're the ones putting in the long hours on it. So they hopefully believe in it as much as you do.
Yeah, and the whole point of what they're doing is the same point as what I'm doing, which is to feel fulfilled. So if what I'm doing doesn't make like if whatever my approach is makes them feel less inclined to put in the best work they can, then I need to change my approach. Otherwise, I'm gonna, like I've dealt with musicians that have like a swelled head about things and think they're God's gift to the musical, world. And sometimes they're very talented people, but they'll never find collaborators because people can't stand hanging out with them for more than a day or two before they want to find someone else to work with. And those people tend to be like when you were mentioning that you see people with immense talent, but you don't see them going anywhere with it. Sometimes it's that they don't believe in themselves, and sometimes it's that they believe in themselves a little too much, and they're not willing to go. Maybe because I don't play drums, I should not tell the drummer how to play this. Maybe I should just let him figure it out, and we can talk about it and figure it out together. You know what I mean?
Well, there is something about your shit not right?
Sorry.
Or there's something about you believing your shit doesn't stink that tends to turn people away from you for
Oh,
sure,
yes.
right? My shit doesn't stink, but that's okay. But
Yeah, I'm glad we established that. Yeah.
yeah, we're glad we established that, right?
Yeah.
Things you've learned about me today, ladies and gentlemen. But I mean, it's really tricky because okay, it's like comic industry is guilty of this for sure. There are definitely big like you get up the echelon a little bit, you will find certain peculiarities with people. Now, when they're successful, like they're actually making money,
Mm-hmm.
people put up with it because you're the one bringing in the monies.
Right.
But everybody has a cycle with this too. That there are like let's say you get going, your comics are going really well, Image or Boom or IDW or DC or Marvel go to you, hey, listen, you rock, right? You rock.
Yeah.
We want you.
You've been reading my dream journal, I see.
Yeah. Sorry, it was banging around. Something about Wonder Woman and Power Girl, but that's neither here nor there. But anyways,
Okay.
but the thing about that is right. There are points in this you will rise up,
Mm-hmm.
and then there'll come a point when it falls away because every nothing lasts forever. Like there are
Right.
points in this industry.
Evolution of security again, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not even like it's the nature of the world. Like everything
Yes.
changes. Everything. So
Change is the only constant. That's the fun thing about it is like as soon
Mhm.
as you think you've got things figured out, the man upstairs grabs the rug and just gives you a tug, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, it's one of those things where how do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. You'll hear it like right away.
Right. Totally.
You'll hear it because
Yeah.
when you do get to the point where you start seeing some success, it never looks like what you imagine it would look like. It is, and sometimes it's exactly what you want, which sometimes is the real punch in the face too. It's like you guys not only does this not look like anything I imagined it would, but it's exactly what I want to. Fuck. Right, but
Yeah.
that's right. But
Yeah, there's an old saying that like there's two great tragedies in life. One is not getting what you want, and the other is getting it.
yep, and sometimes it depends. But we all get to that point. Like you will get to that point, and if you become an asshole, and hey, look, we all have an ego.
Sure.
It's great, and honestly, a little ego.
Well, I don't, but yes, I know what you mean.
Of course not you. You are. I have an ego big enough for both of us. It's like my head,
That's
big
right.
head.
Yeah. I'm actually levitating right now. You can't see it, but yeah.
Yeah. No superpowers. I told you, no superpowers on
I'm sorry.
the podcast.
I'm sorry.
You can swear like a fucking sailor, but no superpowers.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not levitating anymore. You're good.
Unfortunately, swearing makes me levitate, so I got to cut out both. But
oh, okay.
cool.
Oh, yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, like I've seen this. I've seen some incredibly, even really good people become very successful, and they lose their way.
Mm-hmm.
When this podcast won an award about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's pretty like the Auroras in Canada. When I got nominated for that, I was like, "What did I do?" And then I won. It was like, "Okay, what did I do?" What I recognize, and this is something I recognize, because I do believe, at least in my case, that I'm going to see more success as time goes on. Mm-hmm. Right? Whether it's the podcast, whether it's my books, I'm not sure what that fully looks like yet, but I do know there are more good things were going to come my way. And when they do, I want to keep myself somewhat sane, grounded, keep my head only as big as it is right now, right?
Right.
It's that constant reassessment of what did I do to get here?
Yes.
What do I do well? What don't I do well? Where can I improve? my time, and no matter where I end up, let's say I end up in a big five publisher, a big four publisher, whatever the hell that's going to be by the time I get there.
Sure, big
You end up
25.
at a
Yeah.
big comic book company somewhere. Cool.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe you're like, I realize the pandemic's probably made it a little weird to release constant stuff for your band at this point, but I do imagine you guys are
In some ways, it's made it easier.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just talking to my bandmate about this last night, actually, because we're setting up a Twitch channel for the band, and we've got a bunch of really cool ideas that are like not just music, to make it interesting and sort of like exciting for people to tune into on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
But as we were talking, like I've been in this band for almost 5 years now. And over the course of that time, we've been talking about basically the same thing in different ways. And it all kind of coalesced in the last 6 months, mostly due to COVID. And obviously, disclaimer, it's a tragedy. People die. It sucks. I'm not saying that it's a good thing. There's nothing really beneficial about a pandemic, but there's a silver lining to every cloud. And the music industry has been living on a archaic and like non-functional model for, I would argue, at least the last 20 years, since Napster. Basically, it's been beating a dead horse, to the point now that it's beating a dead skeleton. Like, it's gone. And so, but the thing is, no other avenues were offered, and mostly the online sort of realm had been taken over by Spotify. But what changed was, now that everyone's home, not only are the audience more inclined to look for other avenues to find bands, but the artists are also more inclined to find new avenues to find audiences. So a lot of things have opened up, and it's caused a lot of creativity to develop. So we still want to do live performances. I mean, that's the key to being a musician, is being able to play in front of a group of people. There's an instant feedback thing. If you listen to stand-up comics, in the last year or so, they've been saying that, like, trying to do like a Twitch or a Zoom stand-up show, it's not the same because you can't hear laughter, right? It's the same with playing music in a venue. Like, when you hear that applause, you know exactly how well the song went, like, right away. Because if people are like, whoa, yeah, then you know you nailed it. And if you just then you're like, okay, we need to work on that. The middle of that song wasn't the greatest. So, like, you can't lose that. But the ability to get an audience is what's been lacking. Because a lot of money has been pulled out of that stuff. And I think that's been going for a lot of the arts. I think it happens with the literary world too, where there's not as much investment in getting new talent up to the caliber that it needs to be. They expect, like, I went to a whole bunch of different workshops when I was working on my novel, which is still in the works. But, I was taking workshops to see how to get published. And part of the reason why it's not finished is because I got so discouraged by that stuff. Because they were basically like, if you want to do this through a major label, you need to have a decent Twitter following or social media following. You need to show that you're willing to put in the effort. And you need to show that they can invest in you and it's going to pay off. If you want to go independent, you need the exact same thing. So it's like, you just have to focus on a different path before you can actually do the thing you want to do.
Well, so here's the thing, like, and this is something I've been quietly doing. I've been experimenting this, and this is one of the reasons I went to Twitch. I'm trying to hit readers, and it occurs to me like the big problem with, so my show is a writing show, and I love having writers on the show, and I love, like, shooting the shit like I'm doing with you right now. I don't levitate when I swear, so I can keep swearing all I want here.
But
the thing about that is, right, I recognize the fact that there's these whole communities I never paid attention to. Everybody's looking at TikTok, but the fact of the matter is there's some really big established places no one's tapped into really at all. And like, Reddit's huge. I think Reddit is a big, like, for authors, Goodreads is still a very untapped thing for a lot of authors as well. Connect as a reader, but the big thing today, this is, I think, the biggest difference today, is way back in like the 80s and early 90s, the band's labels or the publishing houses would do the legwork in getting authors to, again, they specialize on just write your stuff, come out and look pretty once in a while, it'll be great. Bands would be like, okay, we perform, listen, don't get too drunk in the hotel, so I don't want to wait, get bail your ass out in the morning, but besides that, don't worry too much about people, we'll take care of you. Well, now, I mean, there's still a handful of people that still get that kind of treatment, right? I mean, the real like mega successes.
Sure. Yeah. They're
But,
sort of like the noble class now of
well,
artists.
it's not even so much about noble class. I don't know if it's about noble or ignoble. It's just okay. Eminem can't take a shit anywhere.
That's kind of what.
He legitimately can, right?
Right.
So I mean, he traded. There's the trade off when you get to that level of success is this: you forego anything resembling a normal life. Like, period. You have everything money can buy, but now the price to that for him is he can't eat at a restaurant without being bothered. He can't go out to grocery shopping. That'll never happen because he'll last what 5-6 minutes, and not that then everybody will recognize him, and he's not going anywhere for like hours, right?
Right.
So that's the reason why those people are still protected like they are. It's not.
They have to be.
Yeah, it have to be. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when you get to like the middle of the pack or the bottom of the pack, you recognize you recognize the fact that especially the bottom pack. Well, the best thing about being a writer or a drummer is no one's gonna know you from Adam when it's over. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a fantastic show, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for coming. And your singers getting the praise. Maybe your lead guitarist is getting the praise, right? Everybody tells bad jokes about bass players and drummers. Truth and that is, right? They tell all the bad jokes about you guys. The truth is, right? You're the substance of the glue, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, no one recognizes you. So for you, it's about building that name, building that talent, building that. Right? If you want a following, you have to cultivate it yourself. The big change for most of us today is companies have figured this stuff out. Mm-hmm. Right? Companies have figured out that you need to actually you don't necessarily need to do this for everybody. You need to do this for a very select few. The rest of us, the rest of us have to actually use our people skills. People have to actually go out of their way and figure out. And this was actually what I said at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you want? How do you get there? All that stuff, right? That stuff is the most important stuff as an artist because that's how you brand yourself, right? And these are very valuable skills. Yeah, I think too. Like you look at record labels, you look at book places, you look at all these other things. They're corporate. They have become very corporate places. That's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing. It's just what it is. It's the nature of the beast, right?
Well, I would say that it's hard for creativity and bureaucracy to thrive together. So there seems to be some sort of seesaw effect that happens. So as the bureaucracy increases, the creativity is affected in a negative way. I'm not saying like this is not casting aspersions on it. No. You obviously need it, right? Like, what the hell am I? If I want to publish anything that I do, what am I without a printing press, right? You need to have that bureaucracy in place. You need to have some automation there to make it work. However, what I think is happening now, I can speak on the musical side of things for us. And it seems to be in the indie comic community, this is also the case, right? Like, as you were saying, there's a lot of parallels between the two, that we're realizing that access to the audience no longer needs gatekeepers. No. And so what we really need to do is be our own label. So,
absolutely no. Like, what we've all realized, like, and this is the thing, like something I was saying earlier. I had diarrhea of the mouth. The thing about it is, like, because they've establish themselves as again these very corporate places, right?
Hmm.
They have a very set place in the market. They're not the only place, and that's true with music, comics, books, film
Right.
companies, everything.
Right. But as you said, change is the only constant, right? So this is this is evolving as we speak.
Oh, absolutely. Like like
Yeah.
like the big thing about right now, the big actual thing about right now is okay. Kickstarter's killing it right now for comics.
Yeah.
Like right,
Crazy.
and authors like myself are looking at this and we're thinking to ourselves, how can we do what you're doing, right? And now, some of that is simply doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Some of that is simply doing what you're doing, because there is a lot of untapped potential with it, and crowdfunding is, I feel, isn't the same as indie publishing. It's a different goal. You're not interested necessarily in the same audience numbers that maybe I'm interested. Maybe I want 1,000 readers. Well, if I'm crowdfunding,
Right.
I'm not going to get that. Probably not going to get that 1,000, right. At least not right away, right. I
Sure.
built that, right, but I don't need 1,000 in crowdfunding. I might need 80. Like 80 will do.
Yeah.
Will solve. Will solve. Which is a lot easier to get
Yeah.
than it is to get 1,000, right? But there are advantages to both, and there are disadvantages to both. And I think it's making the decision of what path you want to pursue. Um,
Sure.
I think looking at comics, the days of Diamond being the sole distributor are numbered, right? And that's
Yes.
right, that they DC kind of fractured it in one sense right now. That's both good and bad. Some of the mistakes DC are making are eerily similar to mistakes made in the past, but that's another conversation for another day.
Sure.
Um, but the 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 point is, like, people are, everything's diversifying. And
Yeah.
because everything's diversifying, so okay, guide me. I'd love to get published by Tor and Dot Books because I'm a science fiction fantasy writer.
Right.
But the reality of the situation now is this: is why do I need this? Like, I've been traditionally
Yes.
published. I've been traditionally published,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons I'm not traditionally published right now, it's not because I couldn't possibly go back to that publishing house. It actually, from a business standpoint, makes more sense for me to be on my own right
To
now.
blaze your own trail. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right,
This is a
right.
debate I have with my writer friends all the time is like, both avenues are valid. It's a matter of personality, right? So like what you were saying about, following the formula of people who came before. Yes, that is definitely a part of it. You should follow the same path, but put your own stamp on it. It's got
Hmm.
to be you that's doing it and not just like a clone of someone else, right? Like
Oh yeah.
the opportunity is there. The signposts have been laid for you. All you have to do is just follow them, but you better have something that someone hasn't seen before, or at least a new idea to present to the group.
Tell
You
a
know what I
story
mean?
that only you can tell. That's the best advice
Yeah.
I've heard. And that doesn't necessarily mean coming up with an idea that hasn't been done before, because that's actually impossible. It's your spin on it. It's your take on it that really
Sorry,
means.
that's what I meant. That's what I
Yeah,
meant. Is like
yeah.
take an idea that's been done and put your stamp, right? Make it something that like for me as a writer and as a musician, the goal for me is when people witness my work, whether it's a live performance or it's reading something that I've done, I wait for the tilt of the head when they go, "What'd you just do?"
Eh,
That's what I'm looking for, right? That's the sign that the gears are turning and now they'll remember who you are, right? If you can't do that, if they're sitting at the back with their arms crossed, or if when they're reading it, they're just flipping pages and they're going, like it
yeah,
means you might have flow, but it doesn't mean you haven't hooked them, right? As soon as that head tilts, you're like, okay, I got you now.
yeah. No, it's that
And
emotional
that's the
connection.
key.
It's finding the emotional connection in your story, and
Yeah.
that's the dividing line between, I think, good and great. Um,
Yes.
you can, and it's a very hard one. It's recognizing when this isn't enough. It's got to come from here. It
Hmm.
doesn't come from here, and I don't care what it is. It can be erotica, penguin porn, or it could be It could be
You got something on your mind, man? You want to talk about?
my personal life's my personal, leave me alone. So don't
Sure.
judge me, right? Right, but don't right. It's one of those things that you gotta recognize the fact is it doesn't matter what the genre is. It doesn't matter what the subject is.
Yeah.
Can you actually make it matter? Can you make it sing? And the only way to do that is it's not here. It's here, right?
Yep.
And going back to something I said, and we're almost like a full circle thing. It's got to be something you need to tell, not just you want to tell. You need to tell the story, or chances. You don't have to be technically perfect. You have to be emotionally cognizant, though, and that's a big.
Yes.
I want to take. Remember Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat? Your soul is mine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, your soul is mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the goal. You want to take their. You want to take their souls and go. You're mine. I got you. And I want you to come back for more. I'm going to give you a hell of a hallucination, and I'm going to get you to come back for more. That's what a story. I think that's what stories do. Stories take us.
That's what good songs do too.
Yeah, absolutely. The best.
Yeah, they pull you out of where you are and they bring you into another world, right? Just like a story.
We did a writing prompt actually the other day about songs I listened to. So I listened to so my range is Japanese rock and roll, heavy metal, like soft rock, soft rock, pop, ethereal music, and jazz. Like that's what I listen to when I write.
Nice.
That's my range.
When you say Japanese rock, who are you talking about? Because I know a thing or two about Japanese music.
I'm a big fan of so we talked video games earlier. Have you ever played Persona 5?
I know of Persona. I have not yet been able to get into them. I feel like Persona's like it's like getting into anime is like getting into Japan RPGs where it's like where do you start?
So this is so here's for me. So this is the thing, right? Every one of the games, all the Persona games, like 3, 4, and 5 are 4 and 5 are easy to get. 3 is a little more difficult, although I do have it, and I really, really like the game a lot because it deals. So but usually the conceptually these games are about really deep things. 3 is about dealing with death, both friends dying and your own mortality. 4 deals with deception, the idea of illusion and truth and what is real and what is lie. Like what does seeking out the truth really mean? 5 talks about reform and justice and like concepts of ruin and what society actually looks like. And these games are really in depth in terms of what the kind of characters are in them. Persona 3, they're all high school. You're a transfer student from high school, but from a different school coming in for a set timeline in the calendar. My only piece of advice is don't believe you have the time they tell you have. They're lying. They're lying.
But I like games that lie to you. That's one of my favorite things about games.
I like games that really, really mess with your expectations, and so and they do a masterful job of it. 3 is the least as a game to play. It's more challenging than 4. Hey Shed, how you doing? Welcome to the interview. We're talking about Persona right now. We ended that room because we're talking about the music I listen to, and but the music on each of the games fits it helps tell the story of the game.
Oh, that's fantastic!
Right, and so Persona 5, so this is their end boss music, right? I Shed, I can just doing all right, tired, but what else is new? Yeah, I know the world keeps turning, and Shed is tired. It's a universal truth. It's totally universal truth. I'm glad to see you doing well, my friend. Welcome to the show. I got another one later on tonight if you are interested, but we'll see. But anyway, the song is called "Look Us Up." You should actually listen to it. I had Chuck listen to this one. He liked it. It's called "Rivers in the Desert."
Rivers in the Desert. I like it already.
No, I love it. Yeah. Japanese singer singing in English. It's
very cool.
Like Japanese rock. There are some really, really even with some of the stuff that's interested in the anime and stuff like that. some of those are amazing English songs. Like they're in English, they're not in Japanese at all. And some of them, and some
Yeah.
Japanese ones are fun too. Um, Larkin Ciel is a fun one in Japan. Flow is a fun one for if you want Japanese. But Shojiro Toguro, I think his name is. He's the composer for all the Persona, like for the all three Persona games. So they all fit. Persona 4 is Scooby Doo. Persona 3 is a very dark, interesting thing. No, Persona 4 really is Scooby Doo. It's really, really good.
It's like a murder mystery.
It's really good how they do that. 5 is a thief game. You're a thief, stealing people's hearts. It's really, really interesting.
Oh, cool.
It's a thief game, but everything in these games is like this is story, like it's all storytelling. The characters are very much, they fit the worlds they're talking about. They tie to a grand overall theme. For Persona 3, 4, and 5 do tie together, but the reality of the situation, they're all great individual stories on their own. 5 is far and away the best of all the games. It is so good. If you play 5 though, you might like 3 and 4 will not feel good. They just will not. 4's too easy, and 3,
like that Metallica shit again, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Don't bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's the downside. But Rivers in the Desert's like I love the Persona 5 soundtrack. Life Will Change and Rivers in the Desert are my favorite 2 songs on there. They're amazing. I listen to those all the time. Rivers in the Desert has legitimately been my mantra for the last 2 years. Like it's just the whole.
Very cool.
I really like. It's amazing. It's kind of been my mission statement: to create my own river in the desert. I want to live a creative life, and I'm going to create it inch by inch, brick by brick. That's what I'm going to do, and I don't care anymore about anything else. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's who I am right now. So
what else is there really? Like that's the conclusion I came to, is like I realized that like I'd spent a lot of time putting all my effort and expending all my energy for someone else's benefit, and it really wasn't serving me well. Like once I learned all the things I could learn, there wasn't really another reason for me to pursue what I was doing. So it was like,
yeah,
eventually, like especially when I was 29 going on 30, I looked back, I was like, what have I done for 10 years? And like I was terrified because I was like, fucking nothing. I did nothing.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be like this at 40. I got to figure this out. And so the last 7 years, like I've legitimately done some shit. Like I've written a comic. I've got a band that's like steadily moving forward. We've got a music video. We've got a decent following. We're doing shit. I started a business where like a handyman business that's turned into a reno business, and that gives me flexibility to do all the other things because I control my own hours and all that kind of stuff. I'm my own boss. So like all those things happened because I had a crisis where I was like, what am I doing? And like I think we all reached that point. And then to me, like what confuses me is how no one told me at the beginning of all this at a young age, like, no one gets out alive and all you really have is what you've left behind. So make it count. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
You don't get to bring it with you. Like
No. I agree with that. I put it slightly different. This is how I put it.
Sure.
I said this earlier. Life is fragile. It's painful. It's gonna hurt. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you ain't, like, as you so eloquently put it, you take nothing with you.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's about what you leave behind. I think it's just about what you do in the time you have. That's it.
Right.
Do what you love.
But isn't that what you leave behind, though?
Right. The thing is, everything. People are going to forget that. Our best and worst quality as a species is that we forget. Like we legitimately forget. That's not. It's a bad thing, in the sense that we have a tendency to let history repeat itself.
Yeah, we don't learn our lessons. Yeah.
No.
But we also don't hold on to a lot of painful shit. We're good at letting it go.
Yeah. That's the flip side, right? It heals us. It forces us sometimes to go back into places we've been to before. But at the same token, because we do forget, we forget shit. But at the same time, it lets us move on as well. So I don't know about like, I'm not even really worried about what I leave behind because I don't really know if that truly matters. I think what matters is I was here, I did what I love to do with people I love to do it with,
Hmm.
and whether if you believe everything matters, if you believe everything matters, I can't think of anything more important. And if you believe nothing matters, well, then you're doing probably
Do
the
it
best
anyway.
possible thing with nothing you can. Depending on what no matter which side of the coin you're on,
Yeah.
that's ultimately it. Everything
Right.
else is by and large meaningless. The rest of life, whatever that is really about discovering what those things are to you. And also, I
Yes.
mean, and that means doing some really, really cool experiences sometimes. And that's great. It's about meeting people. It's about going out there and taking chances. That's
Yes.
life. All right. I took a chance. I was a freelancer for a year. I don't regret a damn thing. Like I said, I could have stayed where I was, but I don't regret a damn thing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get a job I'm not gonna keep. I already know this deep down inside. Like this is simply to get me ready for what's next.
Yeah,
Because what's
man.
next? I got more books to release. I got more podcasts to release. I got people to talk to like you. I'm getting ready to travel the road and basically my own mystery machine. I know another Scooby Doo reference, but damn it, that's just what it's gonna be.
Hey, man.
Yeah, yeah, right. I'm going to have my own mystery machine driving across both countries, meeting amazing people, hearing their stories. Because honestly, I love that shit. And
Yep.
meeting great people that are doing incredible things. The most rewarding thing doing this for me is this: I meet incredible people all the time. Look at like Shed. Shed's an amazing guy. He really, really is. He takes care of people he loves. He works his ass off, probably a little harder than he should, but that's not. But right, that's that's out of respect. It's not that.
Sure.
It's not that I think he's a bad like.
No, it's not a criticism. It's like a sign of admiration, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, and he's an
Yeah.
amazing, smart guy. I love debating with him. I love talking to him. He's a smart dude. He's an amazing human being. And the thing is, I
Hmm.
was lucky enough, even if it's just digitally, to meet this man. Same with you. I know I
Yeah.
get right. I got to talk to a dude who drums, who makes comics, who is passionate about being creative, who's looking for a lot of the same answers I am at, right? Who's
Yeah.
doing the same things I am, and is trying to make the most out of the time we have. I am thankful because I realize that in spite of all the bullshit we try to tell ourselves that makes us so different, we're not that different. What's
You're
interesting? What's
really not.
interesting is the little details. That's the real stories of life.
You know what's interesting though? Like I think about that a lot. It's weird because like between any like if you were to take all the human beings in the world and kind of like put them together and have them like write out a list of traits that they think they have, 99% of them would be identical,
Yeah.
but that 1% is so different that it makes everybody interesting. And that's so weird. You
Well,
know what I mean?
everybody actually. The thing is, even in those similarities, there are huge differences.
Hmm.
If we were too much alike, we'd want to kill each other. We just would want to like because we would
Or
see
there'd
the
be no reason to interact, at least, right?
well, no, we'd want to kill each other because it would we would see in our we would see in ourselves the qualities we don't like in ourselves
Right,
in each other, and we come out. I've seen it with my own family,
right.
sometimes too. Like I've seen it right, right. Sometimes it's the other way, right? We're just different enough that we it's like I use this a lot. The whole concept of sea salt. Those we have these different little black flecks and imperfections in all of us, but it's
Right.
those little things that makes us who we are. It makes us all unique, but also the same. We're also of this we all and that's a cool connection. How
Yeah.
so varied, so in ways never I could never imagine in this life, like the things I've seen in the last 30 years make me go, I really know nothing. Holy shit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to the trick is, can you get rid of your preconceptions of what people are, and can you just say, well, maybe I can try to figure out where I'm alike or where I'm like. Intelligence naturally discerns difference. Can you learn the wisdom and try to find those connections? That's my
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
That's my journey, and
Yeah,
so
that's huge.
that's knowing who I am. In your case, it might not be quite the same thing. In fact, I hope it's not, because, all right, like you have your own things to discover and your own possibilities to explore. And that's great,
Right.
because we will experience a very, very different life doing it.
Yep. And then we can do this thing where we talk to each other and we find the commonalities, and then we kind of fill in each other's blanks as well. The places that
Yeah,
we haven't
exactly.
figured things out, we can help that. Yeah.
And we might even disagree sometimes. And that's great. You know what?
Yeah.
I don't certainly have like look, again, I have a big head. I know I have a big head. But even I'm not so naive to think that the world does not revolve around me sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Right? So I mean, it's one of those things where
The only time I'm the most important person in the room is when I'm alone. That's how I look at it.
maybe sometimes I wonder even then too. Am I really the most important thing here? But
Well,
sometimes
yeah.
it's one of those things. It's one of those things that I recognize about life. But this is about what I again. It's about what I want and about what I need, and everything I'm doing is leading down this path.
Sure.
Right, and it really, really is, Shed. Important. It really is a loaded word and very subjective, and for everybody, that's what makes it so different. All of us so different, right? I'm just here to do what I'm supposed to do. That I keep it very, very simple that way. There's just enough hubris in it that it's actually believable, right? Right, and and just enough humility so I don't come off like an egomaniacal asshole. So I mean that's right. Even though, like I said, big head, but
That's the challenge.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I found I heard this quote, Jean-Paul Sartre, who's like a French philosopher, and I've been thinking about this for weeks now since I heard it, and it kind of like applies to what you're saying about the similarities and differences and that kind of thing, and how we follow our path. He said, "Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you," and I think that's absolutely true. Like in your early years, you're not really in control of shit. You're just kind of like stuck in an environment, and you have to like you know deal with the circumstances that you're presented with. But at some point you gain the agency to look around and go, that part doesn't make any sense, I'm going to stop doing that, I'm going to try this thing instead, and your heart starts kind of like taking the lead on certain things. I think it happens when you're young as well, but you're a little more confined by upbringing and your culture and your environment. But as you get older, you reach a point where you can kind of go, I think I've figured something out. I'm gonna express it the way that I think I should, and then we'll see if anybody resonates with it. And then if it does, then you're like, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing I'm doing now. That's what happened with music. I think it sounds like that's what happened with you with writing.
Um. Hmm. So I grew up in a very biblical household, and one of the
Mm.
conversations I heard my dad go off and on in his 40s drove me freaking nuts. Powerful narratives are certainly about constraints and limitations. Absolutely, Shed. Let me add maybe a little thought to both of what you're both saying here, and it's this. I recognized a long time ago that the whole like we talked about earlier that safety is an illusion. I
Mm-hmm.
actually also think by and large control is an illusion as well. We
I
don't.
fully agree.
Yeah, it's an illusion. We never really have it. Things happen, and then it can be a result of a lot of other people's choices. It could be like you want to say it's a cosmic consciousness thing where we all move in a direction. I mean, you definitely you can definitely make a case of that right now for sure. You can make the argument that just things randomly happen, or maybe it's God, maybe it's who knows, right? Everybody has their own answer on that one. I'm
Yeah.
not debating that. But I realized that by and large, for the most part, I don't really have control what goes on when I outside. The only thing I don't even have control whether I wake up. Like at some point, I mean, I go to sleep, I may not come to. Like there is that risk in life that
Right.
that I may go to bed and I will not wake up. That's
That
it.
was
Like
the
if I
last sleep
wake
you
up,
get.
so I don't control. So I don't control sneezing. Occasionally I cough. Occasionally I fart. There's a lot of things going on in my body. I have very little say.
Breathing, heartbeat,
Yeah, everything, right?
hormones.
If you really sit there and think about it,
Yeah.
you don't really
Think
have
about
a lot
walking.
of say. You just don't have a lot of say.
What are you actually doing when you walk? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So I mean, most of us really don't think about that, right? And it's like, so the only control we really have is how we choose to go about any situation we're given. That's it.
Right.
Everything else kind of is up to the whims of the universe. Maybe tomorrow I get hit by a car and I'm paralyzed. But Shed, in your neurochemistry, you do have a little bit more say on. You can actually train your neurochemistry. You just gotta be aware of what's going on. You gotta be aware of it, but you can do it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
I think of that side of things in the same way as like when you're working on your you've been talking this whole time about, you know, the path, following the path that you're on, and like doing what you know you should do, like following that sort of gut instinct. I think you can learn how to control the flow of that instinct to a certain degree, and understand when it's telling you the right thing and when your anxiety is telling you something. Like you can tell the different voices, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. No, you can definitely, that definitely comes with practice, and you got to be aware. Big thing is you got to be aware it's going on. Once you are aware, you can make changes. And
right.
And
that gives you agency, but it doesn't give you freedom, right? Like you're not in control, but you can know what you're doing. It's different than being able to decide what you're doing, right?
Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like if we're going to come at the nature of what free will actually is, it's ultimately the decisions you make in the situations given to you, realizing that there are a variety of stimuli trying to get you to go down one of the million open doors around you.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You got to be but when you sit there and really think about it, you're not in control. But the wonderful epiphany, you know what the wonderful epiphany I had about that? Thank God. Because
right? Yes.
Because I certainly should not, I barely remember to wear pants. I certainly should not be put in charge of anybody, you know. I should not be put in charge of anything or anybody that way. I have all the power I need. If you want to tell me that you think you can do the world better than I can, go nuts. I'm going to give you an applause, because really, it don't matter that much. And that's just and that's pretty much it. The decisions we make are entirely ours. Are we adult enough to face the consequences? That's another decision as well, because everything does. But ultimately, going full circle, everything fucking hurts. You might as well do you might as well do what you want to do, and pay the prices you're going to pay to do it. Because really, I mean, again, and then ultimately it simplifies. Do what you love, with people you love, for, I say God, but whatever you feel that is, do that. The rest of it really doesn't fucking matter. Right?
I think the most important skill that anybody can learn, and I think it's the translatable skill, is communication. Because, like you said, we're not really in control. The only way we can really gain control, like the only way that humans clearly have like an advantage, right? Because we've been kind of successful in every environment that we've found ourselves in, but not individually. It's always when we work together that we're able to do it. So like the most powerful skill we have, the reason that we have the society we do and that we've dominated this planet the way we have, is because we work together and we cooperate when it's necessary. Now, like if you can't communicate, you can't cooperate. Absolutely. So you got to learn how to speak people's languages, and not just beat them over the head with yours too.
Well, you have to learn empathy. Without empathy, you really will never be able to communicate properly. The for everybody watching, listening, that is stealing each other's food. That is learning all the good swear words, although he can't swear right now or he starts floating. We agreed no superpowers on the podcast.
That's correct.
Right, right. I don't have superpowers when I swear, so I can swear all I want.
Yeah, you're good.
Right,
you're
right.
Good. Yeah.
But it's discovering without empathy, there is no real communication. It's just people that refuse to listen to each other.
Yes, exactly.
I think we've talked for quite a while. You're definitely an interesting dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah. You as well. I'd be happy to do this another time if you're. I
absolutely. So what we should do. And
maybe I should plug all the shit that I'm doing right now, right at the very end. Is that cool?
But first.
Sure.
Shed's right, and communication and empathy and drive connection. Absolutely. I think the biggest message we give to each other, Shed, is this. Honestly, whether we I don't admit this or not, we're not alone. And we're not alone, and we're in this together. Good, bad, or indifferent. There is no way to separate yourself from that.
Correct.
Now,
I can't argue with that, man.
Yeah.
That's as true as it gets.
Yeah. So, that all said, Mr. Ben, I think we have a decent interview here. What do you think?
Yeah. Feels good to me.
Yeah, okay. So, how about you do your music first? Because that's how I discovered it. And then we'll go to your comic, which is awesome.
Sure.
And do you have a Kickstarter link up yet or no?
I do not. No, it's up for review, so it should be sometime this week. I'll be putting the link up.
Yeah. Give me the link when you do, and I'll definitely, when I advertise this as an audio / YouTube video, it'll definitely do that. So
wicked.
So music, and then your comic, and how people can find you.
Sure. I'm in a band called Pioneer Anomaly. We have a music video on YouTube. We're part of a label called Primal Note Productions. We have a website, primalnoteproductions.com. And we're affiliated with a couple other bands. You can find us on the website, but we're a space punk band out of Toronto. Think Pink Floyd meets the Sex Pistols, basically. So we get real spacey, but we get real intense too. We got a new album coming out in May. And our Twitch channel is probably going to get started sometime in April, so we can work all the kinks out before the album release. So I'll be, obviously advertising about that once the ball gets rolling. But other than that, we already have music up on Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Deezer. I think, the Jay-Z one, Tidal, I think, Apple Music, all that stuff. And then my comic is called Apex. It's a sci-fi noir in the ghetto of the future. And that Kickstarter will start in April for 30 days. And hopefully it gets funded. And I already have issue 2. The script is in the works, and the artist is very enthusiastic about drawing it. I have a variant cover on the go. So the ball's rolling, man. I got merch, the whole 9. So I'm very excited. This is the first time I've ever like I said before, I'm very uncomfortable putting myself out and being the center of attention. This is really uncomfortable for me, but like you said, shit hurts. I got to do this. This is worthwhile. So this is my first run.
I hope I was gentle. But answer a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I hope Mr. Shed has a really good question.
You're a very intimate lover.
I work very hard on that.
I'll tell all the girls or boys, whichever you prefer. It's up to you.
Girls, definitely. But yeah, it's all good.
Sure.
Wait.
I'll put in a good word for you.
Okay, we'll make it work. Yeah, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
So Shed asks, do you quantize your drum fills?
Do I quantize? Oh, that's a great question. So Ben Rayburn, who's the frontman for Pioneer Anomaly, is also the audio engineer. He has background in it. Really, really talented guy. Very lucky on the top. Like we were talking about collaboration and communication, finding key people to work with, huge. This guy's amazing. He does not quantize. So generally what he does is he will line up bars so that they fit correctly. But for the most part, we go live off the floor. To be honest with you, if a drummer's worth their salt, then they can play to a click. So I can play to a click pretty impeccably, and I'll be doing it live on a Twitch stream in the near future, where we'll have a keyboard loop that I'm playing the drums to, and I gotta say I very rarely miss. So it just takes practice.
Yeah. So there you go. Shed's very happy. He's saying yay and awesome, and that's what I want. And
Nice.
now, yeah, Quantas, we'll have to talk about that next time you're back on, because
Sure.
actually, because the other thing too is your lyrics kind of reminded me of a couple other bands I was curious about. There's a certain one like Rise Against. There's like Rise Against-ish, Toolish kind of flavor with you guys' lyrics, and we'll definitely
We can
have
talk
to.
about that.
Yeah, we
If you want to talk
definitely.
about music, I can do that for days, dude.
So and the next, so when your comic is up, because I assume it just seems this is how my podcasts work. I'm sure we will
Sure.
go down that avenue if you want to come back.
Absolutely. I would be happy to. Yeah.
Yes. So this is Benjamin Cook. He is a writer, drummer, rock star, all that stuff, entrepreneur. It was a pleasure having him. It's also my first musician on the new show, which is always really cool. Later on tonight, Judith Clark will be joining the podcast in about an hour and a half. But if you guys are like what you listen to or like what you watch, hit the follow button on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/justjoshingpodcast, right? And Shed saying, take care to you, Mr. Benjamin, as he says,
It
right?
was a pleasure. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me, man.
yeah. And beyond all that, guys, I'll see you in a little bit. Get Pioneer Anomaly. Their stuff rocks. Take care. Stay inspired. Stay shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys a little bit later on tonight.